Kia ora everyone, back here with another video. It's time that we start to look at sprites. I think we've got all of the base knowledge now that we need to understand what's going on here. We've looked at classes, we've looked at inheritance, we've looked at properties and methods, and we've looked at the init function. We've looked at all of those default values. I think we're ready to start using the inbuilt arcade.sprite class, which means we can now get some images on our screen, which is going to be great. So I've written this here, I've already done this, and we're going to make this today together. Let's run it, let's see what it looks like. Ooh, my little plus has disappeared over the side because I tried to make it smaller for you, or text larger. Here we go. What does this actually look like? This is what we're building. You should see up on screen we're going to have a couple of sprites turn up. We've got a score in the middle. We've got an actual player character down here. The player is going to follow the mouse. And we've got a whole lot of random coins that, once we collect all of the coins, when we touch a coin, it's increasing the score. And that coin is disappearing. And when we collect all of them, boom, resets. Score resets, coins reset, player resets, and on we go. It's sort of therapeutic. You keep playing this for a while. Boom, there we go again. Okay, I want to make this again from scratch. I know we've covered a lot of the things that we need to do already, but it's good to go over it a few times so that you really get used to what's going on. Make sure you're not missing any steps or forgotten some of the concepts. So let's go through it all together, right from the start all the way through to the end. As you can see, I've made lots of stuff today. The other thing that I have done is I've gone to kenny.nl, who is available on itch.io as well. He makes really, really cool sprites and animations for you to use in your projects. They're actually really cheap for what they are. So a lot of them are free. You can go and download free packs there. You can also support and donate to his cause. I have so here you go. I have my player character PNG, and I've got this coin.png as well. I've called this one character idle and this one coin, just to make it a little bit similar, or a little bit easier for us to work with today. Also, they're sitting in my root directory, whatever directory I'm working in, whatever directory I'm making my Python file in, is where those images are as well. That's going to be important later on. Make sure you have this. Okay, let's right click, new file, and let's call it sprites.py. All right, now that can disappear. Okay, what's the first thing we have to do? Of course, import arcade. And look, my IntelliSense is saying, oh, he's done that quite a lot. Maybe he wants to do that again. Okay, we'll also need random today. Oops. Okay, set up a couple of constants like we do when we make the window. It needs a width, it needs a height, it needs a title. Let's set those up. Oh. Width is going to be 800. Height's going to be the same. And the title is going to be sprites. Cool. Right. Let's do what we did last video, a couple of videos ago, where we're going to make our own game class, which is going to extend the inbuilt arcade.window class. All right. So let's make a class. Let's call it game. It's going to inherit, it's going to extend from arcade.window, which means it gets all of the cool things that already exist in arcade.window and some more stuff that we're going to give it. Okay, what are we going to give it? We are going to give it its own initialize function. So define... whoa, hang on VS Code. Maybe I'll do this by hand. That was the predictive thing going nuts. So let's slow down. Define init double underscore init double underscore, and we want to pass this a width, a height, and I know, do I want to pass this a width, a height, and a title? Can I just use the constants I've already defined? I think I can just already use the constants I've already defined. So I just need self. First thing we're going to do when we initialize this thing is we're going to call its parent's class and make an instance of that class. So here we go, and we call that with super. And so in calling super, we have made arcade.window. So that there is roughly equivalent to saying arcade.window and then stuff in here. Arguments in there, right? It's roughly equivalent to that, if not exactly the same. Maybe. So we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to go super and say call that super class, please, and call its init function. Double underscore init. And then the window class requires a width, a height, and a title. Cool. Okay. What are we going to do when we first make this? We're going to set our background color to whatever you want. You know how to do this now. It's set background color, and I'm going to set it to arcade.color. Air Force Air Superiority Blue. Air Force Blue was what I had before in my previous code, so we'll do that again. Nice. We'll leave that there. There's some other things we'll need to do here. We'll leave it there for now. Okay. Now, we are going to make a setup function. Why are we going to do this and create another setup function when we already have an initialize function? Well, that's because when you're playing your game, sometimes you want to reset everything. And it would be really, really handy if we had like a reset function that just starts the game all over again, and we don't have to worry about going through and, oh, what do we need to set up? What don't we need to set up? What's already there? What do we need to rearrange? This will help you no end if you have a setup function that you can recall every time you want to start the game afresh, but you don't want to create a new instance of the actual program, of the actual window. So let's create a setup function. And whoa, setup is of course requires self as an argument. And what are the things we need in this game? Well, we've got a score. So let's go self.score. Set it to 0 to set up. We've got we have a player, and here we go. We're starting to get into the actual sprites. So self.player is going to equal arcade.sprite, capital S because it's a class. What does a sprite need in the arcade library? Sprite needs a file name, and that file is going to be the picture, the actual image that is used for the sprite. And luckily we have that already. It's called characteridle.png. So I can just put this in here. Characteridle.png. There's also some other things you can give it here. It's better to do them afterwards, and I'll show you that in a moment. You can also give this a scale, and that's going to be important later on. Remember that. Remember the scale. We're not going to at the moment. But if you hover over it, of course, you'll be able to see everything that you can have. So we have given... I wish I had a laser pointer. For the first one, the file name, right? Sprite file name. That's the picture we're using. Absolutely. That's a string. And then you can see next is the scale, and you've got an image X, image Y, image width, all lots and lots of things in there. And this is why we're using the inbuilt sprite class. It would take us forever to memorize exactly what we need to give it, exactly how, or to write all of this code ourselves. So we're using the inbuilts because they're great. Oh, they're so much better than trying to do this all yourself. Great. I have a player, and so self.player, and if I go dot, ooh, look at all the stuff that already exists for me. I'm going to choose center X. I want to set its X position. That's going to be set to 200, and self.player dot center Y is going to equal 400. Maybe make it whatever you want. It doesn't matter for the moment because we're going to adjust this with mouse position very soon. Okay, I think I can leave that there. Great. The next thing I want is I want some coins. Now, in order to do this, we're going to need a coin list, and that coin list is going to hold all of those sprites together. A sprite list in Python Arcade has a whole lot of logic in it, a whole lot of programming in it that makes it super efficient and super effective, and way faster to work with. You want to work with sprite lists as much as you can. So let's say up here, let's go self dot coin list is going to be equal to arcade dot sprite list, capital S, capital L. It's not in not camel case. It's not in snake case. Which, oh well, who cares? It looks like that. Your IntelliSense should pick it up. Okay, so it's now a list, and what we can do is let's now make a coin. In fact, let's make lots of coins. How to make lots of things all at once? For loop. For I in range 50. Let's go. Our coin is going to equal arcade dot sprite, and what is our file name is coin dot png. Okay. Coin is equal to arcade.sprite as coin.png, and coin dot center X. Whoops, center X. Thank you, VS Code. Coin dot center X is going to equal random dot randant somewhere between 0 and width, and coin dot center Y is going to equal random.randant 0 and height. Okay. Right. No. Haha. At the moment, how my code is, if you just left it like that, of course, it would overwrite coin every time. So we actually need to add our coins to our coin list now. So we need to say coin self dot coin list dot append self dot coin list dot append, and the sprite we want to append to our list is coin. So now we should have a coin list full of 50 randomly placed coins all around our screen. There'll be one there and one there and one there and one there. Okay, cool. Is this going to work yet? No, of course not, because I need define on drawer. Define on drawer. Oh, go away. Define on draw. What's going to happen on draw? Well, we're going to start render. And then we're going to say player self.player.draw and self.coinlist.draw. Are we ready to hit that play button? Not quite yet. We've defined our game window, but we haven't actually made one yet, of course. So there's one more step to do. Our game is going to equal game, and we can just leave it like that. And we're going to say game.setup, of course, because we now have that setup function, which is going to calling this here makes an instance of the game class. This actually runs all that internal stuff that we set up, putting the coin somewhere, actually creating our player. That's actually setting up the game. And so now let's go arcade.run. And in fact, I'm going to put all three of them together. Are we ready to go? Let's find out. Hopefully you've spotted something. Whoops, did it actually click? Here we go. I'll do my little dance again, waiting for the computer to run, waiting for Python to load in, waiting for arcade to load into memory, waiting for the actual instance. Hey, very nice. Here we go. Player, of course, isn't moving. My coins are massive. My player's also quite big. There's no interaction between the two yet, but we'll get there. Hey, wonderful. Now, something that I will say is there's... Whoa, did I hit it twice? I must have hit it twice. That means it took that whole time to load. Oh well. Something that I will say, if you are setting up variables in your code that you're going to reference later on in your class, it's real bad form to do what I've done here, which is create a coin list down here, create a score down here, create a player down here without it actually being in my init function. Generally, you want it to be in your init, just empty with nothing in it, even if you haven't defined it yet. So I'm just going to do that now. It's good form, it's good practice, it can save you some headaches that can crop up. Even though it is working and it is running, generally you want to do this. So I'm going to say self.score, and I'm going to set all of these to none, just as a cue to anyone who's reading my code or to myself later on, to say, hey, this is just a blank placeholder where I'm going to put something later on. Not yet. It's important that I don't do it yet, because I don't want to be duplicating my code, running the same code twice, but I'm going to do something with this later on. So self.player is going to equal none. Self.coinList is also going to equal none. And that's it for the moment, isn't it? I think so. By the way, if you read the, if you're reading the docs, if you're reading the tutorials there, they also put the player into a sprite list. There are some performance benefits to doing it that way, and some consistency things that if you put your player into a player list, some things do run better. But I thought it was a bit confusing to do it today, so I haven't done it that way. So the player is just sitting exposed and naked. No, not inside a list. It's not inside a list. A bare, maybe we'll say that word. A bare variable, not inside a list. Okay, what's next? Right, well, let me just zoom that out for you. You can see what we've got so far. Make it a little bit. Can I fit all the code onto one screen? Almost. Okay. Next step. What do we want to do? We actually want to move the player. So, when the mouse moves, define on mouse motion. Whoa, look at all the stuff that I get automatically. Now, some of these are necessary, some of them are not. They are not necessary in this format. These little colons, they're there to help you as a programmer, but you want to get rid of them. And we actually don't want to return anything from this function. So thanks, but no thanks, VS Code and Pylance and IntelliSense. So what do we actually want to do with this? When the mouse moves, we're going to get these two variables called X and Y. That's the position of the mouse. Can you please set self.player .center X to X, and do the exact same thing, please, with center Y. Cool. Now my player should be following the mouse. Hey, look at that. Annoyingly, those coins are still massive, my player's still pretty big, and my mouse is visible, and that looks horrible. Let's fix that. So, right at the top in my initialize function, I can just go self.set mouse visible. You see that crop up there? Set mouse visible. That just takes a boolean. False. Great. Now, what do we do about those massive, massive sprites? We can use that scaling factor that we talked about before. Now, you can set them up as variables. That's good form. I'm just going to set them up as literals right now. So when we make our sprite, down here in self.player, anytime it says arcade.sprite, you can hover over that, and you can see that our second argument is a scale. And you can see that, and I wish I could hover over it there, but I really can't. So it says scale, float equals 1. Ooh, what does that mean? That's a lot of jargon. Okay, so it's setting the scale. If that's how much our sprite is going to be zoomed in or zoomed out by. Its type is a float, so as long as it's a number, you're fine. It can be a decimal. And it has a default value of 1. So if I want to make my sprite half the size, I need to put in... I don't want my player to be half the size. I want my coins to be half the size. If I just add 0.5, I should get coins half the size. And I might just drop my player down to 0.7. Let's check that out. Yeah, nice. That's looking much better. Still, the coins are quite big. They're the biggest coins I've ever seen. Try fitting those in your wallet. Let's drop it down to 4 or maybe 3. Let's go 4. 0.4. Let's go. Just took 20% off. Yeah, that's better. Nice. Okay. She can't do anything with them. I have my character. She can move around with the mouse. She can't pick up the coins. What can we do? How can we pick up the coins? Okay. We need an onUpdate function. So let's make that. And in here, maybe just make it a bit bigger. Make it a bit easier for everyone to see. Oh, too big. Go away, terminal. So define update. And you can see it's giving me a delta time as well. I think that's necessary. Again, it's returning something. Don't want to return anything this time. Get rid of it. Also, if your IntelliSense isn't doing that, maybe you like that, maybe you don't. I think you can turn that on and off, but also you can just put it in. It's a bit harder to remember what to do, but you can hover over and you can see the things you need there in the method. You can also use the reference. It's much better. I haven't needed to go to the reference once because I've had it in IntelliSense, and this has been... IntelliSense has been finding the doc strings, finding the help functions that have been written in, the comments written into the language already, into the module. And I haven't needed to go to the docs, but if I was confused, I would be going to the reference all the time and checking out what things I need to put in this method. Okay, update. Right, we want to see whether or not our character is touching a coin. And don't forget, our update function runs every frame, 60 times a second. Check if the player is touching a coin, please. How do we do that? Well, we can go self.detect. Whoa, no, let me... It's actually arcade dot, not self dot. Arcade dot. Check for collisions with list. Arcade dot check for collisions with list. What is this going to do? As you can see, I need a sprite, and I need a sprite list, and it's going to check for a collision between a single sprite and a list of sprites. So that's one of the main reasons why we're using a sprite list there, because this collision, this the actual overlap detection, is being handled by the arcade module for us. Check for a collision between a sprite and a list of sprites, and it returns a list of sprites colliding or an empty list. So we actually need to capture that data somehow as well. So we want to check whether or not self.player is touching any of self.coinList. And what this is going to give us back is another list of the coins. So the player can be touching multiple coins all at once, and we want to check, are they touching any of them? And it's going to give us a list back, just the ones that the player is currently touching. So let's call it touched coins and set that equal to that there. Touched coins equals, and that's arcade.check for collisions with list. Great. What are we going to do with these coins now? We're going to say for coin in touched coins, for coins in touched coins, we're going to increase the score by 1. And we're going to say, we're going to say coin. So for every coin that's in that coin list, coin dot kill. This is an inbuilt thing with Python. It's great. You could have used something like dot pop, or you could have deleted that off the sprite list itself. There are ways to do that. Arcade's got this really nice dot kill, and it'll just get rid of that coin. Let's see if this is working. Oh, look at that. Yes. That's great. Cool. And all the coins are gone. Cool. Right. Things to sort out. We need to sort out the score and show that on the screen. And we also need to reset the whole thing once we're done. Oh, and we're not done yet. Okay. Let's go. Next one's easy. If self.coinList let's actually go if the length if the length of self.coinList is nothing, then we can just say straight away self.setup. And that's going to reinitialize everything straight away, including the score, including the position of the player, including all of those coins. It's going to run that whole setup function there, which, of course, overwrites those there. But that's what we wanted. That's what we want. How do we show text on in Arcade? We go to our onDraw function, and we can say... let's not do it there. Let's do it after that. We can say arcade.draw draw text. Draw text, and the text that we want to draw, of course, is score. And we want it to be at width over 2, height over 2, and we want it to be, let's just say, arcade.color dot black, and default size is 12 points. You can just see that there in the auto hints there. Let's make it bigger than that, and so let's give it a font size of 70. It's gonna be real big. Good. Now it's giving me a warning here. I'm actually going to run it without doing that, because This took me about 10 minutes to diagnose when I was writing this yesterday. And so I want to show you the error just so you see the error and that you remember this as a potential source of confusion. Okay. Name score is not defined. That wasn't the error I was talking about. So that was two errors in the same place. Okay, run this. Here we go. Attribute error. Integer object has no attribute split. Oh gosh, where is that? Let's work backwards. Let's read that error message. Oh goodness. Line 269. What? I only have 51 lines of code. How can there be an error at line 259? This happens when there's some code running elsewhere, maybe some code you've imported into your game, or some code that a library, a module that your program is using, where the error is happening, and something you've done is causing that. Now, if we take a look at that text function, take it really read into these, and I do hope that you do actually read these when you're writing code. They just solve so many problems for you. What is it after? Well, the first parameter, the first argument that it wants is text as a string. So we're passing an integer, and everything's working fine. There's been no type checking until somewhere in that arcade.drawText function, they're trying to split an integer, and that doesn't work. So a better thing to have done would have been to do some type checking and say, hey, look, no, you can't actually give me an integer here, and provide an actual warning rather than waiting for this code to fail. And maybe that will come in the future. But for the moment, that's not there, and it's just failing later on down here with this attribute error. Okay, what's the solution? Well, maybe log an issue in the arcade library, but the other thing would just be to convert that integer to a string. We all know how to do that from our days back in typing out hello world. Self.score is currently an integer, needs to be a string. Problem solved? Problem solved. Hey, success. Something that I will say, take a look at the moment. My player is, excuse me. My player is currently in behind the text. I don't like that. I don't think it looks that nice. Let's just take that line and draw that as the first thing that we draw. You've got to think that as these things get drawn, they're starting at the bottom with the background, and then they're being layered on top of each other. So if I draw the text after the background, if I draw the text, then everything which happens, like the coins and then the player, is going to happen on top of it. It's going to look a little bit nicer. Let's run that again. There we go. My player now moves in front of the score, which just makes it look natural. Cool, let's see if that reset happens. Hey, let's pick up all the coins as quick as we can. Dumpty-doo. Maybe you can have some fun with this. Maybe I should have only made it 10 coins. Here we go. Does the reset happen? Oh, wonderful. We have that game working. Maybe if you wanted it to just tick up and up and up and up and up, you could, instead of resetting the score each time in your setup function, just let that score keep ticking up. So we'll set it to 0 here, and we'll just comment out that line again with command slash. So here we go, and we're counting up and up and up and up and up. What's going to happen now when we reset? Everything but the score has reset. This is the value in that setup function. We now have more finely grained control over the things that we reset, the things that we don't want to reset, and how and when we do each component of a game gives us more power, gives us more control over the components of a game. Really cool. Hey, man, we've covered a lot today. Just even getting the pictures on the screen, getting them to interact, sprites, sprite lists, writing text on the screen, attribute errors. We've covered all sorts. Well done if you're up to this stage. If you've managed to follow along, completed as well, well done. Let's just try to see if we can get the whole of the code up on the screen. Probably not, but we'll give it a shot anyway. I'll do a slow scroll, and then I will try to zoom out. I don't know if you'll still be able to see that. I hope YouTube gives me the full resolution, but that's the whole code there. Wonderful. See you on the next video.